Welcome to hashtag Just an After number 4. Starting now. On a bit of a bumper length version of one tonight. Because I changed the times. Because obviously we've kind of got it settled down that it's going to be every Tuesday that this is on. But what we haven't got settled down is the time of it. I prefer evenings because I am more active of an evening when it comes to talking and my brain being able to function and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, working on the time is just a little bit confusing because I never know whether to do like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, so it gets people late at night when they're going to bed, or do it in the evening like we're doing tonight, and just seeing what the fuck happens. Basically, Just a Natter works in the way that we will talk about things that are in the news, things that are going on in the world and all that kind of stuff. If you've got any comments, when it comes to like advertising and saying to people, look, I'm on air, I will put them onto the YouTube page. On the YouTube page, there is a comment thing on the side of the screen. Please use that and the comments will come through to me and I will be able to include your voice in the topics that we have to say. If you're watching this later on YouTube, when it's not live, it's the kind of recorded version, then please feel free to keep on adding comments and all that kind of stuff at any point. I'm not really bothered how many comments you add, and just let's just get the debate started, that kind of thing. Yeah, so speaking of which, about YouTube, I must firstly apologise. If you were watching last week's Just a Natter, I must apologise because it kind of seemed that the second half of the broadcast was interrupted quite a bit by just really bad internet signal at my end, which obviously meant that what I was trying to say didn't really come across that well, and that basically, yeah, it kind of fucked up the second half of the broadcast. So I do apologise about that. It wasn't your computer, it was at this end. So I have sort of kind of rectified that now, but if it does it again, it's not my fault and I've done what I can, so whatever, back off. But apart from that, welcome to hashtag Just an After number 4. Now, if you'd like to know about the comments, for some reason, YouTube has got this thing at the moment of the broadcaster, when a video goes live, or like a broadcast now goes live, it puts a comment on as the broadcaster, and it's just a blank comment, but I don't really know why it happens. But anyway, it gives me a perfect example because I can show you this is what a comment will come up like. So yeah, I cannot see that. What? To me, that shows us backwards. I can see error. Is that it? Is that, I think that's in Spanish. Is that in Spanish? I have no idea what's going on with this. See, I'm still learning about Google+. It's not as if I've even learned over the past couple of weeks. It's just a case of that's the way that it is. But I should probably point out to you at this point, I have gotten a little more advanced with some of the things that I do. And yeah, that's a lot of fun. Unable to load comment. That's because it's a blank comment. So there you go, YouTube. I don't really know why it does it why it does it like that, or why it's showing us an error message, but it is. Okay, so on to some of the things about me. What's been going on in my week this week? Well, quite literally, not a lot. Like the weekend, I got drunk on Friday night with my friend, and by the way, I watched a film that I managed to download earlier on in the week, and it's called A Haunted House, and is it Marlon Wayans or something like that? I can't pronounce his name. He was on Ellen like before. He's really good. Like he's written the film, he's produced it, and he's in it, and it's just it's a brilliant film. Like kind of similar to the sort of stuff that he was doing in Scary Movie. For those of you that saw any of those, like it's kind of that kind of humor. but it's absolutely just brilliant. I really cannot wait to go and see the second film um, when we eventually get over here in the UK. Um, I have no idea when that's going to be, but yeah. We stopped in. We had a couple of drinks. So of course that meant that Saturday I kind of wrote off Saturday as just a really bad day. I actually spent it in bed watching Disney films. Um, that kind of hangover day. Couldn't eat. In fact, there was food coming out of my body. It just wasn't a good day, like at all. Um, so yeah, but I'll tell you what has really amazed me recently is the fact that the UK has actually been getting some quite nice weather of late, and it's been enjoyable for once. Like it's not exactly warm, but it's sunny. And it's weird weather because when you're in the sun, it's like really bright, and you can feel there is some warmth in the sun. But then you get that wind, and the wind's just really cold, and it does make you like kind of want to ask the question as to, well, why is it sunny? Um, because I prefer my sunshine with a little bit of heat, and I don't think there's anything wrong in that. But it does make me want to ask the question though, because you see um, all year round, like these weather reports. Now, the latest weather report for over here in the United Kingdom is saying, it's going to be a nice couple of days, probably till about like Wednesday, and then it's going to start going cold again. And you're thinking, well, I just got used to it being sunny. And then, yeah, then it's going to go cold over Easter, and then it's going to start to pick up again. It's like, for God's sake, we just bring the summer on already. Which, oh, speaking of the summer, I believe we're due for like the hottest summer on record this year. And I don't know what's brought it on. I don't know why they're forecasting it, but that's what they're saying at the moment. So I'm really made up about that because I love my sunshine, like really love it. Um, what else was I going to mention? Yeah, while I'm on the topic about the weather, I was actually going to ask if it's kind of to be believed these days. I mean, I'm not really too sure as to how the weather is actually forecast. Like, I've never actually been into one of these meteorologist places that they go and forecast the weather. And seen about all these high pressures and the low pressures and everything like that. Never done it. Um, but it does seem to me that quite a few times they do get it wrong, and in some cases it can be like severely wrong. And yeah, it just really makes me wonder, like, is it to be believed? I don't know if it is. Um, but nevertheless, when the weather gets nice, that's when I get nice. Because I just like it being warm. I don't like all this winter stuff. I have a huge problem with winter and cold weather, and my problem with it all is that you know during the winter you will go out, and when you want to go out, you obviously have the heating on in your home. So you have to get yourself ready, like scarves and coats and fucking blankets, whatever it is that you put on to like keep yourself warm. But you're doing that inside the house where it's already warm. So you're kind of melting by the time that you get out on the street. Then it's really cold. And even though you've got like 10,000 coats on, you still know it's really cold. Um, and then, of course, you get to your destination where it's going to be a little bit warmer. And so you then have to take off your 10,000 layers of clothing. And then you have to get ready at your destination. You have to leave that destination where it's going to be cold again. Then you come back home and it's always boiling in the house um, until you cool down yourself a little bit, and then it's back to kind of normal sort of temperatures. It really, really bugs me. I hate winter. I really hate winter. Like, I don't mind it so much when it snows. I can cope with the snow a little bit because I think for a couple of days, it looks really nice. Everything looks lovely, and then you be out walking and you realise the snow's covered in dog shit, so you don't really know where to stand, and you then realise it's turned to ice and it's a little bit on the lethal side. Then you start to fall over and it's just horrendous. So yeah, winter, get rid of it. Summer, I'm all about the summer. I absolutely love the summer. Do you know why I love the summer so much? A couple of years ago, I had a bar job, and I went to sort of go to work early, but like I had to walk through a town centre because I needed the cash machine or something like that. And it was a lovely hot day. The sun was out, and it was about 5 o'clock on a Friday evening, something like that. And the pubs had the windows open and all the doors open, and the music was playing. They had the table and chairs out in the street, and everyone's just enjoying themselves. And I was like, do you know what? This is what summer is all about. Completely what summer is all about. People just being outside, enjoying themselves and everything like that. So I kind of have this little thing about summer these days, that when the weather starts to actually pick up and get nice and warm and everything like that, I don't like to be stuck inside. Like, I will take every chance that I can just to be outside. I absolutely love it. Like, I don't know, and the warm evenings. I love the warm evenings. Just, oh, it's so good. And I loved it even more because a couple of years ago when I went over to Canada, while I was over there in like July, August kind of time, they were having heat waves. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I mean, okay, I know that Canada gets like freaking 10,000 feet of snow during the winter, and that's a little bit bad. But during the summer, oh my God, that place is fabulous. Like, going to Pride, and it was just dead hot and getting sprayed with water. Well, I presume it was water. It was Pride after all. I'll never be too sure. But yeah, it was just fabulous. Really, really fabulous. I really love my summer weather. So there you go. Also, while I'm on, there is something I was going to mention about, because I have thought about trying to get my friends to actually come on here and talk about it themselves, but I never seem to be able to have the time to actually get in touch with them. But maybe it's something that I will try and work on in the future. Who the fuck knows? But basically, there's a family on YouTube, the LeFew family, who I have spoken about in many, 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 many of my videos. I even did the film showing for the film that they were in over here in the United Kingdom. Well, the film wasn't over here in the United Kingdom. I got it shown over here. I had to organise all of that. So there is loads of videos that I've done that mentions them and everything like that. I absolutely adore them. And there's a book that they've come out with, and it's a children's book. It's based on them. Obviously, they've not written it themselves and everything like that. But I got to hear a reading of it the other day, and even I was sat there and I was a bit like, oh, people aren't going to like this so much. And it's really heartbreaking for me to have to say that. But whenever there is a sort of debate about same-sex marriage or gay rights as a whole and everything like that, you always get these people that are opposed to gay rights, and they always say, think about the children. What are we teaching the children? Blah, blah, blah. And this book is obviously, it's explaining about how Jay and Brian adopted their kids in like really basic terms, and how they became a family and everything like that. The proper version of it, like the adult version, is fascinating. Like, hearing the paperwork and the effort that actually goes into adoption, fascinating. Like, really interesting topic. But when it came to like writing a school book and everything like that, all I could hear during this reading in the back of my head was the voice going, you are going to get some people out there that are going, you're pushing this on to kids, we're not ready for this kind of thing, and blah blah blah. Even though, like, over here in the United Kingdom at the moment, it is perfectly legal for a same-sex couple to adopt children. I think it's actually legal for a single parent to adopt children as well. I'm not too sure about that one, but I know it is for same-sex couples. And obviously, a couple of weeks ago, we got same-sex marriage over here in the United Kingdom. So basically now it is legal to have a same-sex couple as a family. And I think that's absolutely, perfect. It's really nice. More so when it comes to adoption, because that kind of does put like emphasis behind the saying of it takes more than blood to have a family. Anyway, there is still people over here in the United Kingdom, and I know that they are over there in America, because they're always out there, the crazies. But they will be saying, you are pushing this onto kids, and we're not ready for our kids to be taught that kind of thing. And this isn't really a topic that I've had chance to talk to parents about, because there's always something else going on that I generally end up talking about. But for the most part, the people that I know, the people that I'm friends with that are parents and that kind of thing, I don't think that they would have a problem with a book of this nature. But it does just kind of in the back of my mind like think, are we feeding the fire that is going to get thrown at us for kind of like pushing this kind of topic, you know? But at the same time, while thinking that, you see, this is what happens. This is me thinking live. But at the same time, I actually think that gay history, well, the LGBT community as a whole, the history of it should be taught in schools. You know, we teach about the history of religions. Um, we teach about like the fights of the black community and the slave trade and everything like that. We always teach about that, and it's like, well, hang on. The LGBT community as a whole has got an incredible history. People like Martin Luther King, yeah, he did a really good speech and he really did improve the lives for thousands of people right across the world. Harvey Milk, you know, half of the people that are watching this are going, well, who the hell is Harvey Milk? Harvey Milk's he's a fascinating character anyway. Please go and watch the film Milk if you haven't seen it already. But he did loads of work for the gay community, and you know, he was the first. Oh God, what are they called now? I can't remember the proper name for it, but basically like the first gay counsellor for this area in California. And you know, he did really well. He improved the rights and all that kind of thing. And he had an incredible life, like really incredible, and he did loads for the gay community. But a lot of kids, when it comes to leaving school, don't know who he is. So I kind of think that maybe we need to teach that. So I suppose if my own personal moral is we should be teaching that in school, then I guess having books like that in a school is good. But I can just hear people saying, you know, the gay community is pushing this on us and blah blah blah. So I just worry about that a little bit. Maybe I'm just overthinking things a little bit too much. Who knows? That's just part of the fun. Yeah, so it is a really good read from the bits that I've heard. But I can't actually remember the name of. How We Adopted Our Two Dads, I believe, is the name of the book. Really interesting. You know, if like same-sex families has not been something that you've looked into, then it is definitely worth a read, and it's quite an enjoyable read. So yeah, by all means, go and check up on that and have a little look at what's going on with that. Okay, on to some of the topics that are in the news at the moment. The Ukraine is making a move now to get its own land back on the eastern side of the country. This, from what I know, started about a day or two ago. I think it was a day ago. I think it started yesterday. I can't actually remember. But basically, what's happening here is these pro-Russian forces, as such, because I mean, let's face some basic facts here. The Russian army has been heavily involved in getting the Ukraine out of, like, Crimea, for example. We know that already, despite what Putin and whatever the rest of them say. But and this is something that I've said in many of the other Just a Natter videos, is that the Ukraine gave up too easily. You know, they sort of had this thing of where they turned around and said, okay, you want that land, you take it. You have it. We'll just move our stuff. Let us get a couple of files together, empty our desks, that kind of thing. We're gone. And now it looks like they're actually starting to push back, and they are going to sort of reclaim the land and go, do you know what? No, Crimea is ours. It's part of the Ukraine. Sit on that. But the only thing is, as people who know about this topic will probably know, Russia does not take this kind of thing privately or quietly. I can see, I could genuinely see this being the start of some trouble. I believe that was it one of the army bases or one of the air bases, something like that, there was a fight that broke out there. There is a number of casualties, but details of that were kind of a little bit sketchy, so I'm not too sure of the details about that, but it looks like this is already kind of starting. So to answer the question, is this going to be the start of the war? It is far too early to say, because Russia in my personal opinion, Russia isn't going to take this lightly. It's not going to happen. Like Russia is seriously going to want to kind of not so much push forward and claim new land, but they're going to want to keep hold of the territory that they've already got. So it's going to be a really hard task to get back, like the submarines that the Russian troops took over. It's going to be hard to get back the government buildings that Russia took over. This thing that Putin signed the other week to say that the land is now part of Russia. How the fuck do you get around that? You know, the EU have turned around and said, Europe have turned around and said, well, actually, we've signed this, and that just means that what you signed is pathetic, and we're moving on from it, and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, this could well be the start of it. I don't know. And like I've said all along, I really don't want this to be going off to war. But if needs must, then needs must. You know, Russia just seems to have pushed in and have taken its land. Now I know from having looked back in history that this kind of thing has happened quite a bit, and it's kind of almost bad for me to sit here in the United Kingdom and say, well, that's really wrong, because the history of the United Kingdom is kind of us doing exactly that. You know, just going in and saying, this is our land. But, you know, we handed it back with love and peace and whatever. But yeah, there is a lot of history of these kind of things happening. But they needs to fucking stop. Really needs to stop. So there you go. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. And of course, one of the other things that you've got to think of here is how much is there a threat of war to the West when it comes to like Russia and Crimea and the Ukraine and this whole fighting thing? Like, how much is the West actually prepared to get involved, and what is the threat to us if we do get involved? Now, we do know from Putin or one of his associates, people thing, that there has been threats made against the West, basically saying, if you get involved, we're going to nuke you. We're going to actually send over a massive microwave. I'm going to stick you all in it. I'm going to press start, give it a minute, and you're gone. Not in those exact words, but very close to. Anyway, so yes, there has been threats made against the West saying, basically, back off. It's not for you to get involved. Now, I personally on this do support the West actually getting involved, because this isn't right. This situation is not right. And although in the past, the West as a whole, like America and the United Kingdom, and you know all of them places that got involved in the places like Iran and Iraq and all these places with large amounts of oil, funnily enough, and the war on terror, which we will come on more to in a little bit. I promise you that. Which is why this one is so long, because I will be going on about this topic. But basically, we sometimes when it comes to war, we have gone in to like Iran, well, Iraq, and all them sort of places. We have gone in, and I personally think that we've been lied to, and it's just basically been an excuse for us to go into that country and do as we please, and obviously that needs to be tackled with. But it's kind of like we've not gone in there and said, this is our land, these are our people, they belong to us, blah blah blah, and overtaken the building and claimed the country as ours, or any land as ours. But that's kind of what Russia has done. And although Russia turned around, or Putin turned around and said that Russia isn't involved in this or hasn't escalated this kind of problem and all that kind of stuff, the Russian troops, I think it was something like 15,000 troops, are literally on the east coast of the Ukraine waiting for that one little radio call, and they are going in. Like, guns blazing, they don't care, they will do it. And yeah, that is quite a worrying thing as well. So what is the threat to the West? If we sit back and do nothing, there is literally no threat to us, which is perfect, what we want. If we do go in and all guns blazing and everything like that, the consequences are kind of not looking good, basically, really not looking good. And you know, while I said earlier on, I don't see there being an alternative to war because we've put on all the sanctions that we can. Russia's out of the G8 and it's now the G7 and all that kind of stuff. We can do as much of that as we like, but it's having a limited impact. So I don't know. Really, I don't see any other way other than this just kicking off, and it is going to be really really interesting to see what actually happens over the next couple of days, because I think it is going to be literally down to the next couple of days. If something's going to start, it will start soon. Because I don't think Russia's going to be backing out of Crimea as easily as the Ukraine government did, and the army, and the navy, and the air force, and the everyone. Right. Okay. That's kind of like that's a little bit of the news that's going on at the moment. There is some other things that I wanted to talk about, which are kind of like historic cases of news that have been kind of going on recently, and they are of well, personally for me, they are quite interesting. When it comes to these particular topics. The first one is, of course, what we kind of commemorated, I think is the word, I don't know. But basically, the incident of Hillsborough was 25 years ago today. And considering I wasn't actually born when this incident happened, it's a fascinating case. Like, really fascinating. The reason that it's so fascinating is because of not only what happened on the day, but because of what has actually happened since. And although, yes, it is back in court, and the media and everyone like that are kind of limited as to what they can say because they don't want to be accused of influencing the case that's going on at the moment, or any of the jury members, anything like that. This has got to be a fair vote and fair justice at the end. But when you look back at the history of the Hillsborough incident and the inquests and everything like that that's happened since, it really makes you want to ask some quite awkward questions, like how much can we actually trust the police when it comes to incidents like this? If it's found out to be true that the police officers on the day were told, don't make any notes about this, that's disgusting. Why were they told that? Why wasn't outside the stadium, why wasn't that prepared properly with the barriers and everything like that? Why was it not set up ready to go? Why wasn't the tunnel that the people were walking down, why wasn't that shut off? Why wasn't there someone there going, go into that pen? That pen is empty, go in there. There's so many questions that need to get answered, and I think if what I heard was today was correct, then it's got another 12 months to go through, pardon me, on this current court thing, and then obviously there will be a verdict, and I don't really know what will happen from then on, because I think for justice reasons there has got to be certain arrests made. There is, was he Superintendent Duckenfield or something like that? His name was Duckenfield. I can't remember if he was superintendent or he was some position in the police, and he was overseeing the events on the day. The police, and he's the one that was supposed to be accountable for everything, and he's the one who's started all these lies, and it's a case that has got an incredible history with it. And when you watch the documentary about it, which I've done many times now, it still blows you away as to what happened. And the reason for me that it is so easy for me to see that the people are right, not only in the way that it's acted or anything like that, people can say what they like about this event. To me, I hear other people's opinions, but I will still go and do my own research on this, like on a non-biased basis. So I know from having been on many nights out in Liverpool, I know what kind of most people in Liverpool are like. They are just really honest people, um, complete strangers, and you can be talking to them at a bar, and 5 minutes later you've got the best friend that you could want. They're just really nice people. So I guess on that account, I would believe it. When you actually look into the facts of the case, it it beggars belief that people people that after the incident, when they were getting questioned about it, they were asked how much alcohol had the fans had. And it's like, well, why would you ask that? You know, why would you even think that? It's just incredible. And if you haven't already seen the documentary about it, then I urge you to go and have a look into it, because it is a fascinating documentary. There is loads of footage about it on YouTube as well. YouTube is one that I used quite a bit, and I found it really, really helpful when it came to looking into this case, because obviously there's news reports like from on the day, and as the inquest has gone on, there's more news footage about it, and it's just really, really interesting and well worth a look into. And obviously today is the 25th anniversary, and it after 25 years, after 23 years or 22 years, the verdict that was given initially to say, this is the cut-off time and this is what happened and blah, 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 that was quashed, and they said, we will look into this again and blah, blah, blah. And now, 25 years later, it is being looked into again, and we've just got to wait and see what happens. But, yeah, it is just really, really interesting. So there we go. If you want to have a little look at the documentary, it's on YouTube. If you just search for ITV Hillsborough documentary or drama, and it should come up on there. It's about an hour and a half long, but just well worth the watch. So please go and watch, and I don't know, make up your own mind about it. But this is something that even for the next 12 months, I will be keeping my eye on that case, and just kind of weighing up the pros and cons and seeing if there's any new evidence and who said what and everything like that. And obviously the outcome of it, I'm really intrigued to find out, and I cannot wait for these next 12 months in that sense to be over, so as I can find out and then just be like, well, screw you then. To the people that are guilty in the end. Sorry, I'm just getting comfy. I should probably have told you this a little bit more to the start, because I changed the times of doing this one. I put it as 8 o'clock starting, and I left the time at 10:30 to finish. So this is going to be a long one, but luckily, it's going to be a long one, but I do luckily have quite a bit to talk about. So I'm super psyched for that. Right, another historic case that I've got an opinion on, and this is probably going to take me quite a bit of time to explain it to you, because this is kind of one of them opinions where you're not going to fully understand it unless you're kind of on the same wavelength as me. This is to do with 9/11. An incident that happened many, 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 many years ago, and was one of them incidents that literally shocked the world when it happened. I think most people that you talk to these days, if you say to them, where were you when you first either saw or you heard about the planes striking the Twin Towers in New York, they would be able to remember it, and they would be able to tell you exactly, crystal clear, what was happening in their lives when that actually happened. When the initial case, or when this initially happened, there was obviously a government report into it, and there was an investigation and everything like that, and the outcome basically was that this was a terrorist attack and should be treated as such. And I remember on the day maybe even for the day after or something like that, there was a little video clip that kept on getting played through the media, and I believe that this was actually shown across the world, and it was of children and people celebrating in the streets. And we were told that this is they were celebrating that because of the news that the planes had struck, and they were rejoicing about it because they'd struck the West and everything like that. And it got to me at the time because I remember thinking, well, why would anyone celebrate about something like this? That's disgusting. And it's only been as time has gone on that I've kind of realised, actually, you know, yeah, maybe that was just a little bit of a conspiracy thing. And it's funny because if you actually get in touch with these media companies that showed that footage, they have no record of it. So, what is my opinion on it? A lot of people believe that it is a conspiracy theory when you ask the question, was the American government behind 9/11? And it's a question that I've been asking for the last 2, maybe 3 years now, because it is a really interesting question. And when you sort of look into it from kind of every angle that you can, things just don't add up. Like, they really don't add up. So I want to try and explain something to you. There was a documentary that I watched, which was structural experts, like literally top of the field in like building structures and everything like that, and they got asked about the towers falling down and the was it World Trade 7 that came down? Like there was another building in New York that just randomly came down that day. Like there was an office fire, and the building just magically came down. But it's more of a question as to how these buildings come down. So let me show you this. Okay, you will have to use your imagination for this one, but I want you to imagine that these two candle holders, they are for tea lights, they are the World Trade Tower buildings. Obviously, there's a bit of a size difference here, but I want you to also imagine that this pen is an aeroplane. So we all know what happened on the day, and you know that the pen kind of went through that. Well, the plane and the thing, it went through, and obviously severely damaged the building. But the buildings were left standing, and it's just a little bit of time later. But you'll have to imagine that there is more of these. But basically, this floor up here, for some unknown reason, starts to crumble. And when that starts to crumble, it obviously starts to make its way down to the ground. But here's the thing, though, because if you watch the towers when they come down, they literally don't seem to stop. It's a whole thing coming straight down. And if you look at other footage of buildings that come down, like because of fire or because it's leaning over, whatever it is, there is some resistance in the non-damaged part of the building. So this can come down as fast as it likes. Eventually, there is a part of that building that is sturdy enough to stop it from coming down anymore. And let's not bullshit around here any more than we have to. Them World Trade Towers were built to withstand fucking shitloads of pressure. From having looked into it a little bit, they were built to withstand planes going into them. And let's face another little bit of a fact. They did survive for quite some time with planes going into them. They withstood that. When you look at them coming down, they do come down straight away. There is no resistance seen in the parts of the structure that haven't been damaged. Why do they come down so fast? And literally one after another. It just doesn't make any sense. The other bit that doesn't make any sense with it is the government report that actually got done kind of ignored what a lot of people were saying on the day, even the firefighters that went into the buildings. Some of the things that they said, and the car park attendant who was in the basement of I think it's the North Tower, was it? I think it's the North Tower. And he said that he heard um, what sounded like an explosion. The firefighters of New York have said that they heard things like explosions. And it does make you question a little bit as to kind of what has been going on in that building. You know, the whole kind of documentary, the whole program about it was absolutely fascinating. It is well worth a watch, and I have made many of my friends watch it, and I urge you to go and watch it as well. I think it was just I searched on YouTube for something like 9/11 structural experts speak out or something like that, and it is part of a campaign. Like the experts, the structural experts, are saying we need to look into this again because what we've been told isn't what happened. And to be fair, there is a few things that they mention, and it does actually make you think, hang on, they're onto something there. Like how fast the buildings were cleared up. I mean, okay, yeah, it took like a couple of weeks, which it would have done at any point. But if you're going to carry out an investigation as to what has actually happened with it, you are going to need to go through that rubble. You need to see it for yourself. That can't be done within like a day because it was literally that quick that they started clearing off this rubble and recycling it all. It's like I don't know. I just don't get that. That bit doesn't add up to me. It doesn't add up why certain people's statements were not included in the final report. Why they weren't taken into consideration when these people said we heard something like explosives going off. What was the other one? That they had seen something like molten lava, but it actually turned out to be a metal. You know, the metal, I believe, has a really high melting point itself, to the point that basically a fire cannot melt it. Like it's something else that's been put on it, a certain type of explosive, maybe. You know, why did this other random building come down? What started that fire? These things we just don't know, and it doesn't add up. And of course, the overall question is, what did it actually achieve? Because we all know these days that the war on terror was started because of 9/11. We all know that. But did we all know that the American government were doing things to do with Iraq and all them kind of things before 9/11? Not many people knew that, but there was stuff going on. You know? If you think that troops only went over after 9/11, that's a mistake, because they were there before that. Um, I just, I don't buy this whole thing of, even down to the planes being hijacked. Not too sure that they were. I really am, because I would say but I really am looking into this. I'm looking into everything just for my own peace of mind. It's not to sort of prove anything even, but this is just me saying something doesn't add up with this. And believe it or not, this is actually started by my friend Ben, who I think I mentioned in the first live broadcast that I did on here. I think I mentioned him on that. I can't remember. But yeah, and he was the one that basically said, you know what, you need to look into this, because there is a lot of stuff that doesn't add up, and this is what you need to look into. And it's just been a fascinating journey, and I've really enjoyed looking into it as a topic. But I know that I'm not alone in looking into this as a topic. I know that some of the family members of the people who died, who lost their lives in 9/11, I know that they're looking into this as well. Because I know that some of them are actually saying to the American government, you need to open this up. We need to look into this. And of course, the American government won't look into it, because they keep coming up with this excuse saying, oh, well, you know, it's too late now. It's years on. We've moved on as a country and blah, blah, blah. They're not going to look into it again, because they know very well that if this gets looked into again, the truth could well come out. And I don't think that they want the truth to come out, because I genuinely think this whole war on terrorism, I don't actually think that we went over fighting terrorism. Because again, there's certain things that don't add up with that. Saddam Hussein, the murder of like however many thousands of people that he's had executed and tortured and everything like that, the way that he was treating his people and everything like that, and yet we're supposed to believe that they found him in a hole with no security around him. We found him there. Really? Did we really? We found Bin Laden in a house. No security around him. And then how coincidental that his body fell off the plane. We're really supposed to believe that? Because I'm sorry, but if it was a genuine Bin Laden that had been found, America would have the submarines out, they would have the boats out, they would be looking for that body as much as they're looking for this Malaysian plane at the moment. We wouldn't just be accepting it fell into the sea and moving on from that, because I don't buy it. A really good person to look into when it comes to sort of the West going over and Saddam Hussein in a hole and everything like that is Whoopi Goldberg. Believe it or not, yes, the woman from Sister Act. She did a tour, and I can't remember when the tour was. It's called Back to Broadway, and it was absolutely fascinating. She does these different characters, and it's just an absolutely brilliant show. Like, I really enjoyed watching it. But partway through, she does question why we went over there, why we went over to certain places when these terrorists weren't even in that area or connected with that area. And again, it's questions that just don't seem to get answered. So yeah, so 9/11 as a topic, there is so many questions that need to be answered, and unfortunately these days there is no one really kind of high profile that is actually asking the questions in order to get the answers. And I don't think in any time soon there is going to be anyone to ask those awkward questions. Because I mean, one of the other stories that I've put down as these historic cases to actually look into is the beheading of the soldier over here in the United Kingdom who's called Lee Rigby. And it's not exactly directly, but that is kind of connected with 9/11. And a lot of people that are watching this will be going, well, hang on. No, it's not. But it is. Because we don't know exactly what the troops have been up to over there in the places like Iraq. You know, we hear occasionally about these cases of, you know, where the soldiers have tortured people and they've done this and they've done that and all that kind of stuff, and, you know, that they will be brought to justice and all that kind of stuff. Like, they get a slap on the hand and that's about it. It's very rare that we actually hear the full things of what's going on, and we need to look at also the way that terrorists are treated in America, because they're not treated right. Because I bet a lot of people that are watching this don't actually know that if you're a suspected terrorist, America can literally take you off the streets and hold you in a sort of custody as long as they want to. They don't have to provide reasons, because you're part of terrorism, allegedly. You know, there's some people that have been held there for years, and there is no court case about it. It's just a case of, well, you're involved in it, we're going to hold you in prison. That's it. So how is the beheading of the soldier connected with 9/11? Well, on the day that that incident actually happened, obviously the bits of it were recorded, and the bits that are recorded, which I'm not too sure if they're on YouTube or if, I don't actually know where they are online, but you can watch these clips somewhere on the internet, and the people that have done it to the soldier are saying that they've done it to make a point, to say that this is what is happening in their country and it needs to be addressed. And they actually have a point with that. There is a lot of stuff that goes on in the places like Iraq and Afghanistan and all them kind of places that we don't know about, and we will probably never hear about. but it doesn't stop it from happening. And like I said in last week's video, I don't agree with them actually doing that in the first place. Completely against that actually doing it. But it was intended to raise attention to what is actually going on in them countries. But because of what they actually did, they kind of overshadowed their own message. By the way, I did also report last week in Just a Natter to say that they were appealing their life sentences. I actually don't know of any update at the moment. I don't know if the case is being heard, or if it's scheduled to be heard. I really don't know. Kind of what's going on with that at the moment. It is something that I'm trying to keep my eye on it, but I don't know. I just find with the news sometimes that there can be news stories that you hear a lot about for a while, and then kind of the outcome of the case you rarely ever hear about. And I don't know whether that's just because they think that people have lost interest, or I don't know what it is, but there is some reason that pardon me, news agencies just seem to drop these news stories, and yeah, if you want to know the outcome of the case, you have to go and search for that shit yourself. So there you go. While I'm also going on to this is near enough coming up to an hour, like 9 minutes short of an hour or something like that. So I am going to have a little drink. Bear with. Not done quite yet, hang on. Pardon me, that's so much better. You see, now, this is why on some videos I don't do them live, because I can do that and I can edit that out. So that's how you can tell when this is live, because I will do that on video and it will still end up on YouTube. I don't care. One of the other things I was going to mention, even though it's not a historic case, is that last week I mentioned at the end about a video that I'd done to do with Tom Daly, who's a diver over here in the United Kingdom, and I said the video might be up on Thursday, it might not be. Turns out, if you're a subscriber to the BevRants channel, then you will know the video has not come out yet. What's happened basically is I put a notice on. I opened up a dispute to say that the footage that is included in that video is done so under fair use and blah blah blah. From what I can gather, it's Tom Daly's management or something like that, and they have put a counterclaim on, which now means that I've had to appeal that, and they, for some reason, don't seem to be acting on this too fast. So for now, it looks like the video is going to be out next month. I think it's on the 9th of the month that I should get the all clear and the video can go live. Obviously, what happens after it goes live, I don't know yet, but that seems to be what is actually happening. Don't know why they're counterclaiming it. I don't even know why they're trying to claim the footage that's used in the video. It doesn't make sense, because when you get to see the video, the only footage that is included in the video is Tom Daly talking. Yet his management seem to say that is our property, and it's like, well, hang on. That is one man sat there talking to a fucking camera. You don't own that shit. That is just him talking to a camera. He uploaded it publicly on the internet. That is putting it in the public domain. That's fair use. You know? He's not singing. He's not making... Well, he is making money off it, but he's not making money off that video, allegedly. It's out there in the public domain. So if people want to use it to say, this is my kind of proof as to back up as to what I'm saying, fucking let them. But no, it's a company called RIP10 Limited, and I do have their contact details, and if they do start messing me around with this a little bit more, I will be getting in touch with them myself. So there you go. Right, back to historic cases. About 2 weeks ago, if my memory serves me right, I haven't actually written down the date for some reason. This is obviously how well I prepare things on here, right? Margaret Thatcher died just over a year ago, and it's kind of made me want to ask the question, have people's minds changed when it came to Margaret Thatcher? For anyone who's watching this who isn't in the United Kingdom and you're going, well, who the hell is Margaret Thatcher? Margaret Thatcher was a Prime Minister over here in the United Kingdom. She still holds the record for being not only the first female Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, but she also holds the one for having the longest serving time as Prime Minister kind of ever. Some of the things that she did were kind of really controversial. You know, she was one of them women in her political career that wasn't a talker, she was a doer. You know, she wouldn't say we should think about putting the tax up on bread. It's a case of the tax is going up on bread and you will fucking pay it. And it caused a lot of, well, there was riots. There's, even to this day, there is still arguments and fights about, you know, her legacy kind of thing that she left behind. A lot of people, when she actually died, a lot of people bought the song from, was it The Wizard of Oz, Ding Dong the Witch is Dead? And that song went to #1 in the charts over here. I think it's the week after she died or something like that. And that was basically just because the people that were opposed to her and her rule were celebrating the fact that she died. And I think that is, to this day, I still think that is disgusting. Because at the end of the day, Margaret Thatcher, yes, she had a political career that was dead a long time ago, but to celebrate someone's death is quite sickening, realistically. Because what you forget here is that Margaret Thatcher is still someone's mum. She was still someone's daughter. She was a human being. And very few of the people that kind of celebrated her death actually knew her away from politics. They didn't know what she was like at home. They could presume based on what she was like in politics. But to be fair, we actually need someone more like her in politics to this day. That's still an opinion that I hold. Because, you know, we are in this country at the moment and there is a lot of talk that goes around when it comes to politics, but there isn't a lot of action that goes around. And if you wanted to look at the statistics, the country was in a better place when she left office than it was when she started in office. You know, a lot of people say that she was hungry for war because of the Falkland Islands. Well, the Falkland Islands are they're still the Falkland Islands, you know? We fought for them. And if you think that she's war hungry for doing that, well, have a look at the way that America fought over Hawaii all them years ago. You know, same thing. So, yeah. So I can see where she was controversial in her actions, and obviously I wasn't living during the time of her reign as Prime Minister, so I don't know what it was like to live during them times. But I do think that people were sick for celebrating her death, because that was her as a person that was dying. Her political career was dead years ago. If you wanted to celebrate her political career being dead, then you should have been out there on the street celebrating when she got booted out of Downing Street. You know, the Houses of Parliament, when she wasn't allowed back in them. That's when you should have celebrated the fact that her political career had died, not her actual death. But yeah, so it's a year on, and to be honest with you, I don't think people's minds have changed as much as I would have wanted it to. Because the only posts that I saw about it on social media were the ones still gloating the fact that she's dead. And, you know, all of the jokes that went around at the time of her death. But, yeah, I think either way, you cannot deny that she was a strong-minded political leader and she led the country as she believed was best. And if you look at the paperwork, she did it as she was supposed to, I guess. um, Let me just have a little look at. I keep getting notifications on my Facebook, and that's why I keep sitting forward and just going silent for a couple of seconds. If you are watching, then hi, hello. Please feel free to comment on the YouTube page, and I will try and read it out for you. If you missed it before, this is what happens. You comment, so I actually can't see anything at the moment. Isn't that a joy? I don't know why it keeps doing this recently, but it does, and it's kind of annoying. But I will presume that the comment is on the screen at the moment. Oh wait, Google Chrome is not responding. How different that is. Right, now we'll try. Oh, there you go. There you go. The comment is on, and everything looks amazing. So there you go. Let me just start that over. Yeah, so also if you are watching and you are enjoying the debate, then please feel free to pass this on to people who you think might well enjoy being part of the debate. People might enjoy actually talking about some of the topics. I'm not saying that they will, but they might well do. Right, okay, so let's go back to the news and let's just see what's kind of going on in the world at the moment. There was a thing that I saw on Twitter yesterday, which was quite interesting because it is quite late on, and the person that actually tweeted it just said, "Watch what UKIP does tomorrow." UKIP, for those of you that don't know, is a political party that is basically still trying to gain ground over here in the United Kingdom. It stands for United Kingdom Independence Party, and to me is a load of political shite. The reason that I say that is because next year the UK is going to vote for a new government to basically go in, because I kind of think the coalition that we've got at the moment isn't going to be staying into power. As much as they would want to, and they would say, well, we've got these plans set out for the next couple of years, people don't like to think that the country is cash-strapped. They don't like to think that they could be getting more for their money and they're not getting it. And that's basically what this government has done. They've cut back on loads, and that they are concentrating a lot on getting the debt repaid. And people don't like that. They don't like having to repay debt, which is kind of how we got into this mess in the first place. But yeah, that's basically what this comes down to. So UKIP is it's still trying to gain ground, but it just every other week there is something in the news about UKIP and one of their members or one of their MPs or something like that, and it's always bad press for them. Like, it's very rarely good news. So of course it just made it a little bit more funny when I saw this tweet last night, and it just said, look at what they do tomorrow, because there's going to be a news headline, and it's really going to create some change at UKIP. Now, from what I can gather, the news headline is basically saying that voters in the United Kingdom aren't really too bothered about UKIP as a party. And I can personally second that. I don't rate UKIP as a political party. This Nigel Farage, who is the leader of the party, like if we voted for UKIP to come in next year, he would be the Prime Minister of the country. God forbid if that ever happened. He, to me, seems very good at being able to talk the talk but not walk the walk. In fact, if he was to walk the walk, he'd have to do it backwards in order to get anywhere. Because, the amount of times that he's turned around and he said, well, such and such a person said this, and we are dealing with that MP of the UKIP party. And then he'll say about how the party is going to change and everything like that, and then something else will happen, and then he'll do another speech about how the party is going to change and everything like that. It's just like, oh, for God's sake, will you just give up? UKIP isn't going to gain any ground. If I remember rightly, UKIP is the same party a couple of years ago. There used to be a TV show of a morning called Kilroy. I can't really remember what it is about. I think it was just like a general topic kind of chat show, kind of agony aunt kind of thing. Like a little bit Jerry Springer type thing. And for a while, UKIP actually managed to get Kilroy as their kind of leader. And he kept on doing these speeches and everything like that. And eventually, UKIP dropped him, and it just wasn't going well for UKIP. And then they've got this Nigel Farage who, like I said, he's good at talking the talk, which is why I think UKIP have gained some attention in the news, but they're not able to walk the walk. And I think people are starting to see it now. The reason that UKIP has been getting votes recently is because people want a change in the government. They really do want change, and we are all calling out for change. Because you've got the Labour Party. The Labour Party is the one that was in charge when our economy started to go tits up, and they didn't do enough to kind of stop the banks from collapsing and all that kind of stuff. They've admitted to doing that. So why should we vote for them again? Because they got this country into debt and didn't really do anything to stop it from going into debt, apart from to throw money at the banks in the hope that that would save them. They didn't do anything to do with banking reforms or anything like that. There was nothing. Then you've got the Conservatives, which make up part of the coalition. They're the kind of more powerful part of the coalition. When you actually look at the voting statistics from the last time that we went to actually vote over here in the United Kingdom, the Conservatives won. They did get the most amount of votes, but for some reason, for some stupid fucking reason, there is a threshold that has got to be reached. And if a party doesn't reach that, then for some reason, their votes are kind of just not really counted. And when it came to voting last time, like, people wanted Labour out of the Houses of Parliament. And no government actually managed to get over the threshold. The votes are kind of just spread out evenly between all of these parties. But if you were to kind of take the threshold away, it's the Conservatives that won. The Conservatives are kind of tight with public spending, but they are usually good at being able to repay debt and all that kind of stuff. But they don't mind too much about allowing the country to suffer a little bit. Even if it is just for a short period of time, that just seems to be the way that it is. Like, it would be that Labour would get in, they would mess the economy up, and the Conservatives would be the ones to go in with the mop and bucket and clean it all up, and then Labour would get back in again. You've got the Liberal Democrats, which are the less powerful party in the coalition at the moment, so they also make up part of our government. They are kind of a little bit like UKIP. They can talk the talk, but not so much walk the walk. There is a lot of talk from them, but I actually don't really know too much of what they have done as a party when it comes to what they've done in this coalition. So I think that's going to be interesting for people to find out, because obviously we are going to start finding out soon, because we're going to be coming up to that time when these political parties start doing little things, hoping that you'll remember when it comes to you voting next time. And then, of course, you get the party political broadcasts on the television, and it's like, well, we've done this and blah, 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 vote for us. But they're the main political three parties that you can vote for over here in the United Kingdom. Now, there are other parties that you can vote for, like the Green Party. Don't really know too much about them, if I'm honest with you. The British National Party, also known as the BNP, I wouldn't waste a single vote on the BNP, because they're just the most racist party I could ever think of. Give you a prime example of when they've been bigots. There was a case a couple of years ago now where a same-sex couple had tried to get a room at a B&B, and the owners of the B&B had refused them a room, saying that it was basically, offensive to their God for them to share a room. And the complaint basically made it into the news, and it followed through the court case and everything like that. Eventually, the court case said, you know what, your religion is your religion, but your business, that's not a religion. You know, you have to, if two people of the same sex want to share a bed, if they want to share a room, you have to let them do so. That is the nature of your trade, so to speak. And after that kind of verdict, and the gay couple actually got compensation. I can't remember of how much. But the leader of the British National Party tweeted to say that basically he knew where they lived, and that him and others would protest outside of their house. You know, making a threat like that. And it's like, well, hang on. You're supposed to be the future Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, yet you're doing that. Like, that's fucking bang out of order. You shouldn't be doing that kind of shit. Like, grow the fuck up. Nick Griffin is his name, for anyone who's wanting to look into that. All of the details about it are on Google. It is quite an interesting thing, but the man is just a complete idiot. And I think that's just the best and yet the only way to describe the man, because he really is just a fool. So yes. So that's kind of like the parties that you can vote for in the United Kingdom if you wanted to go and vote next time. Now, the thing is, when it comes to this next round of voting next year, it is really important that we make our voices heard when it comes to voting. One of the ideas that I saw the other night was saying about this option that should be added onto the ballot paper, which says none of the above. And I was kind of thinking, yeah, you know, that really would send a message through saying we're not happy with any of the political parties that are there at the moment. But it would also mean if enough people selected that option on the voting papers, that basically we would be stuck with this government for a little bit longer until they managed to kind of sort out, you know, the next round of votes, and obviously take that option off the voting ballot papers. So yeah, that's not an idea that is actually going to be happening. But I do agree with the kind of moral behind it, in saying, you know what, we the people need a political party, because we need a political party of people, of MPs that have lived our lives, that aren't going to go through and, you know, claim for every single thing on expenses that they can possibly claim for. That's what we actually need. And there isn't a political party that is out there that is votable in the United Kingdom at the moment. You know, and I would love for there to be one, because they would get my vote straight away. But because they don't exist, I can't really vote for them at the moment, and it's a little bit on the awkward side. So when it comes to kind of who to vote for next time, I know the ones I won't be voting for, but it's whatever a political party can offer you, but make sure that you know like who you are voting for. Like, you know, you should know that the British National Party do have kind of rules set up, even though they might well say we don't, but they do have rules that are set up that are racist, that are homophobic, that are anti-immigration, that kind of thing. UKIP, you know, UKIP is a party that has that many MPs that keep getting sacked at the moment because of the way that their stance on certain topics. You know, it was a member of the UKIP party that turned around and said that Britain's storms that we had a couple of months ago was down to same-sex marriage being passed in the Houses of Parliament. And it's like, well, hang on, you're in 2014 and that's the way that you think? Like, really? Is that the way that you think? It was just absolutely fascinating, and it's yeah, it really shows you kind of who you're voting for. So, you know, if you're gonna vote for a political party, make sure you know who you are actually voting for, and kind of think a little bit further as to who would be affected by some of the changes that come in. I mean, don't just say I'm against immigration and this party has said that they will tackle immigration, because, well, what aspect of immigration are they going to tackle? You know, there is many different reasons as to why people emigrate into this country, into the United Kingdom, and we should look at that. You know, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot to be taken into consideration when it comes to voting. But what you've got to think of is it's the future of your country that you are voting for, and yeah, just make sure that your vote isn't going to be wasted. or that you're going to vote for a party that's actually going to screw a load of people over, um, which is another thing that seems to happen every now and then. What a joy. Can I just say I've managed to make it over an hour? This officially is the longest hashtag just a natter up to now. And it's only number 4. Isn't that great? There was actually, this is really interesting. There was a case that was announced in the news to say that the ex-Met boss is looking into an Islamic plot to take over schools in the United Kingdom. That was really interesting. This is a case I heard about a couple of months back, and it was one of them headlines, and it's like, whoa, what? Really interested, because there was a school that wasn't doing that well, and when it comes to like how well the pupils are doing, like from the exams in this school that are undertaken, the pupils weren't doing amazingly well. So there was apparently this plot between parents in this local area, which is quite an Islamic area, to say that they were going to overthrow the head teacher of the school. They were going to take the teachers out of the school, and they were going to teach the kids the Islamic ways and all that kind of stuff. And part of me did think, well, if this is an actual fake case, then it's quite obviously there just to kind of stir up a little bit of racism, maybe a bit of Islamophobia, that kind of thing. But now that there is actually an ex-Met boss looking into it, which is the Metropolitan Police, but now that he's looking into it, it does kind of add a bit of fire to it. And if this is the case, then we really need to look at what's going to happen. Is this a genuine threat for people in the United Kingdom? And personally, I don't think it's too much of a threat. But I, there again, don't live in an Islamic area. I don't live in one, so I can't really say whether it's a genuine threat or not. It does amaze me though, because you see so many schools that are like Catholic schools, you see Church of England schools, you see Protestant schools, and all of them teach in their own little kind of ways. But I've never actually seen an Islamic school. So I'm just putting that out there. I know that there are Islamic teachers that teach in kind of state schools, if you want to call it that. But I've never actually heard of an Islamic teacher kind of teaching in an Islamic school as such in the United Kingdom. I mean, there probably is somewhere, but yeah, not heard of it. So there you go. So that case is being looked into at the moment, and it is really interesting. And it is going to be really interesting, should I say, to find out what the outcome of that is. So this is the thing with the news. You get these headlines and you think that's going to be really interesting, but then in the kind of main news, it just never gets followed up. So it does really make you think, well, why are we reading this in the first place if you're not going to follow it up? So as we can conclude the story. But yeah. So there we go. I mean, is having an Islamic school in the United Kingdom going to be such a bad thing? I personally don't think it is. Some people obviously will have an objection to it because they are kind of not misguided as to what the Islamic faith actually teaches, but obviously a lot in the press these days you do hear of, such and such thing of the Muslim religion went off to an Islamic training camp and blah blah blah, and he came back and blew himself up and all that kind of shit. Islam is associated a lot with extremism. And the truth of the matter is there is extremism in all religions, in all walks of life there is extremists. Only the other week I was complaining about saying about the gay mafia. Well, that's part of the LGBT community. They're extremists that I personally think managed to get the CEO of Firefox thrown out of his job. So, yeah, extremists in every sort of sense. But them ones that managed to get the boss of, or the CEO of Firefox sacked, they don't represent the whole of the gay community. Just the same as these Islamic terrorists, they don't represent the whole of Islam. It's one faith, but a lot of different opinions under that faith, a lot of different interpretations of the words that are in the scriptures and all that kind of thing. Exactly the same with every religion. Just remove the religion. That's all I say. It's just so much easier. But speaking of religions, India, what a joy, has recognised that transgender is now a third sex. Yeah, they did that. I wonder if this is the same India that a couple of months ago banned gay sex. Oh yes, it was. But they now recognise 3 sexes: male, female, and transgender. What the fuck? Just really, what the fuck? The LGBT community as a whole, and don't get me wrong, this is like kind of a mini victory for transgender people, because normally it's kind of like the gay people get their marriage equality and all that kind of shit. We get that first, and then the transgender community are kind of just left to kind of follow up. They have a much quieter voice than the rest of the gay community. But in India, it's still illegal to have gay sex. But now transgender is recognised as a third sex. So yay to the transgender people. I'm going to have a smoke, because it's just, because I've been on here for like an hour and a half. I've not had a fag. Yeah, so is this a step forward for gay rights in India? And obviously, how likely is it that India is going to reverse its decision on banning gay sex as a whole? Sorry, there is no pun intended with that. That is genuinely just how it came out. But it does, of course, make you wonder, because obviously the LGBT community as a whole is normally quite close on these topics, and it's just weird for it to go the way that it has done. Personally, I don't think that India is going to be changing its anti-gay sex laws anytime soon. There's reasons why they've brought that in, and they will probably be sticking by them reasons for quite some time. And equality does come eventually, but it does take time. It takes time. It takes time and a lot of paperwork. It takes time and a lot of patience. But as long as you keep making your voice heard when it comes to like outlawing gay sex, then you are still doing your bit. You are still contributing to it being overruled as such. What do I think about them actually doing the third sex? I think it's ideal. If you want to be recognised as transgender, then why shouldn't you be? I mean, personally, the transgender people that I've met in the past, and some of them that I know to this day, will usually go from sort of male to female or female to male, whatever way it is that they choose to do it. But after all of the surgeries, the hormones, the therapies, the counselling, the questionnaires, all of that, after all of that has been done, what most of these people will do is to identify themselves as male or female. They don't always turn around and say, I am transgender. If you put them into a situation where they were in a bar and they had to choose either the male toilets or the female toilets, they will go to the toilets that they that they are that sex. So if a transgender person has gone from female to male, after all of the operations and everything that's been done, they will go to the male toilets because they identify themselves as male. It's not to say that we're going to have to start building a third set of toilets because of transgender people. And yeah, I think that's just the way that it goes. I think that we identify people as transgender based on what they've actually been through. And And this is something that I actually can't really say about because I'm not transgender. I haven't felt as if I'm someone else in my skin. From having spoken to a couple of the people, I gather that that's what it feels like. They're basically not happy with themselves, um, and obviously want to create the change that will make them happier in the skin that they have. Um, so I am fully supportive of it, but I've never been in that situation. And I think as much as transgender people could explain it to me, I think unless I've actually been in that situation, had those feelings, had those thoughts and everything like that, I don't think I would ever know what it is to be feeling like you want to be transgender or anything like that. So yeah, that's fun. Um, but yeah, India just seems to be quite a bit of a weird place for some of the laws that they bring in at the moment. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I am actually going to nip off to the toilet. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a break, so you can have a little bit of a break as well, dear viewers. But I shall see you in a moment. Ta-da! And I'm back. Sorry, I really had to nip to the toilet then. Like, it was kind of an emergency. But I think it's probably because of how much I drank before. Like, probably most people are going to be able to recognize this. But you know, like, the first wee that you go for in the morning is, like, always dead long. Yeah, it was one of them. So that was a load of fun. Right, okay. Another news story that's been in the news today is that hairdressers in London has made the news over a poster that's posted in the shop, over which showed the North Korea leader Kim Jong Il, um, and his hairstyle, and the poster read something like, "If you're having a bad hair day, it's 15% off men's haircuts," or something like that. And this obviously goes hand in hand with the news that came out the other day, or this speculation to say that all men in North Korea have to have the same haircut as their leader, this Kim Jong Il, whatever it is. This whole news story is only speculation. It's not to say that it is actually true in any way. I personally, I'm not too sure if it is exactly true. You know, if you've watched any of the Just the Natters before, then you will probably know that I have spoken about North Korea many times. You would know that I have also researched North Korea quite a few times as well. And I think the reason that I'm able to say I don't believe it is because of what I have researched. Pardon me, don't get me wrong. I know that some of the things that they do in the country are a little bit odd to what we are used to as a way of life in the West. Um, but I just cannot see it being true that they would say you have to have the same leader, you have to have the same haircut as the leader, like all men should, because it then brings into question, well, what hairstyle should the women have? You know, because surely they have to sort of conform to the same rules as such, and yeah, it's just quite an interesting thing. The owner of the hairdressers has turned around and said that basically this is the United Kingdom, like we have a democracy, which is quite laughable that he would say that, but I think he was basically saying this is the United Kingdom, we have a democracy, this is not North Korea. If we want to post a picture of North Korea's leader as an advert, then we can do, which isn't technically true. Um, but the poster remains up to this day. And it was leaders from the North Korea embassy in London that actually approached the hairdressers and said, you should take that down. Now, I personally, I'm not too sure that they would report that back to the North Korea leaders, or that North Korea would actually take any action. I mean, when all's said and done, it is only a poster. And I would hope, I'd like to think, that the leader, Kim Jong, I'll just refer to him as Kim Jong Un. If I'm wrong, then it's Kim Jong Il. It's Kim Jong something. But I'd like to think that he had a bit of humour, and that, you know, if someone walked in the office and said, "Oh, they're using kind of your image," and they're saying that it's like promoting a 15% discount for men getting their haircut, I'd like to think that he had a bit of humour about it. Whether he does or not, that still remains a mystery to this day, because there has been a lot of stories that have come out recently about North Korea that haven't been true. You know, one of them a couple of months ago was saying that the uh, what was it now? Was it a friend of the family or something? Um, and they found him guilty of something, and then they had him killed, and his body was fed to wolves or dogs or something like that. And it turns out that wasn't true. And I just kind of think that, you know, this whole thing about the haircuts and men should have the same haircuts, I don't think that that is actually necessarily going to be true. It remains to be seen. I know that the people of the country have to remain respectful to their leader. Uh, is that Kim Jong Il? um, who is still classed as the leader of the country or something like that. Like it's in that respect, it is quite messed up because the technical leader of North Korea is dead. His kind of work, should we say, is still being carried out by Kim Jong Un, whichever one is in. Um, so yeah, so it is quite an interesting thing. And when Kim Jong Il passed, um, when he actually died, the country had to go into mourning. You know, whether you agreed with what he did in his leadership or not, you had to mourn, and that meant that you had to be out on the street, you had to be upset, and you saw the images. You know that there is videos of people literally lining the streets in the thousands, crying and throwing flowers and all that kind of thing. And you know, for a whole country to unite about something like that is quite strange because it's not something that we would find in Western culture. You know, if George W. Bush, if he was to drop dead tomorrow, I highly doubt that the whole of America would come out onto the streets and be mourning and throw flowers at the car and, you know, be kind of respectful in that way. I quite guarantee that that wouldn't happen. But for some reason it did in North Korea when the leader as such actually passed. So yeah, this whole news story about the hairdressers getting into trouble about the poster, I don't think anything is actually going to come of it, but we'll just see what happens with that. So yeah, that was actually quite an interesting little read, but I just think it's based on bullshit. Another story that's been making the news is that US Airways have had to apologize for an image, a pornographic image that got sent on their Twitter account. This is hilarious. I first read about it last night because someone posted on my Twitter and they just said, uh-oh, and then posted a link to the status, which by the time that I got to read it had been removed by US Airways. What basically seems to have happened is that a customer has complained on the Twitter feed of the US Airways and said, you know, my flight was delayed for an hour, blah 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 blah. There was no apology or anything like that. The kind of company has officially replied to that and said, you know, we are sorry, we hate delays as well, and blah 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 blah. And the person has then tweeted back, and that's when this person who's in charge of the Twitter feed at US Airways has tweeted this pornographic image. Now, it is quite funny, but it is also a little bit of one to think about, because I have had a few jobs in the past where I've worked doing customer service or customer relations, whatever you want to dress it up as. And customer service has always been something which has been handled over the telephone, post, face-to-face, that kind of thing. And these days it seems to be more acceptable for companies to use the likes of Facebook and Twitter in order to not only promote their stuff but also deal with customer service as well. And it is opening up to things like this happening. Like this inappropriate image getting sent in the first place. You know, if that person had rang up and complained, it wouldn't have been possible for that image to have been sent. So I think one of the things that we need to look at here is the kind of face of customer service is changing in the way that companies are dealing with their customers. What you'll find more these days is companies that are sort of interacting, but they're allowing their staff to talk to people as a friend. A classic one that I can name to you is Just Eat. You know, me and Ian, some of you guys may well have seen the video that we did, the Just Eat advert. 30-second video clip. Didn't take us that long to do it. There wasn't even tons of thought that went into it. You know, at the end of the day, we needed some viewings and we wanted to do a video that was funny, and we thought, right, okay, we will parody Kerry Katona doing the Cash Lady advert, but we will change it and we'll do it as Just Eat, and we'll put it out there and we will get some video hits. And it worked. We got the video hits that we wanted, but we sent it to Just Eat, and they sent us a £15 gift voucher. They hadn't asked us to do it. They just simply said, that is really good, thank you for doing that. And they sent us like a voucher as a goodwill thing. But Just Eat is a company. If you look at their Twitter feed, I think it is at Just Eat UK or something like that. But they actually do connect with their customers on a kind of friends basis. Like, you know, one of the things that you can do, because for those of you that don't know what Just Eat is, it's a website that you can go onto, and it'll have like a list of local takeaways in your area, and you can, you know, view their menu, you can place orders, and it'll go through. They will ring the order through as such, and it's all done through the Just Eat website, and it is really handy like website. I absolutely love it, but there is a feature that once your order has gone through and it's been accepted by the company, and you get like a sort of rough time as to when it'll be delivered and all that kind of stuff, there is an option then to tweet your order. And I think it just comes up with a simple tweet of, I have ordered blah, and you know, it through the Just Eat website, and it'll actually tag Just Eat, and they will sometimes tweet you back and say, what have you ordered? How long is it going to be? That kind of thing. You know, like a friend would actually say to you. And like I said before, there is quite a few companies that are sort of taking that attitude now. But it is also a little bit worrying. I can name another case. HMV. Was it HMV? I think it was HMV. It was sort of a music retailer of sorts, and the managers had approved, okay, open up a Twitter account and we'll see if it works. And there was a meeting held one day, and the people in charge of the Twitter account overheard the managers of the company basically saying, the Twitter isn't working out as we want, we'll just sack the staff, or they can go and work in the stores, whatever, but we'll get rid of the Twitter. And the staff members tweeted that as the company, and they said, this is what they are saying. They're saying that Twitter isn't worth it, that, you know, it's not working out for them as a company, it's not bringing in enough money, all that kind of stuff. And the company obviously found out, and it was made into a big deal because these people had tweeted as their own personal account kind of thing. A number of cases have happened like that, where businesses have kind of been affected because the people have tweeted as people. But in the olden days of customer service, you know, when the telephone was still like the latest thing to use, like ringing companies and actually speaking to someone, you know, this kind of thing would not have happened. I wouldn't have sat in a call center and said, oh, I've just heard that the managers have just been saying this and blah, blah, blah. That wouldn't have happened. So customer service as a whole has got a changing face, and it is obviously up to companies what they do when it comes to social media and how they handle it. But I just kind of think if there's more incidents like this where a pornographic image gets tweeted out, or, you know, a staff member kind of hijacks the account and tweets whatever they want as the company, then you are going to find that companies are more kind of resistant as to wanting to connect with companies on social media when it comes to like accepting complaints and comments and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's just one of them stories just to get you thinking a little bit, as I ever like to do on this channel. On YouTube. Right, final story is that Turkey is planning to move gay prisoners. Yeah, the ones that identify as being gay, they're thinking of now segregating away from the ones that identify as straight. And when I read about this story, it was a little bit of a confusing thing for me because I didn't really know what to think. Turkey, when it comes to gay rights, isn't exactly your best country. Um, you know, it's one of them things are improving over there, but it's not kind of where you really want it to be. Um, so there are pros and cons to the prisoners being moved. Okay, pro. Well, the country is still developing on the gay rights front. You know, there are still a lot of people out there that would want to harm people because of the way that they identify with their sexuality. So that is a bit of a pro because they are possibly more safer. A con that you are still segregating people um, for things that they don't have a choice on. A couple of years ago, it would have been segregating people because of the colour of their skin that cannot be helped. That kind of thing. So it's a little bit. I mean, that is a massive con to it. Um, but it is a little bit of a time warp. You know, like it is kind of going back in time a little bit to old-fashioned ways and all that shite. Um, so yeah. Um, the thing is though, is it good to do it in a country that is supposed to be progressing on gay rights? And I think that's what the main bulk of this whole issue actually is. And I have to be honest with you, I don't think it is the right thing for them to do. It might well be that it's coming over here as news and this is what Turkey is going to do, but it might have only just been an idea that maybe an MP has had or something like that. It's not to say that this is actually going to happen yet, as far as I am aware. But yeah, when it comes to like a country that is supposed to be working on its rights for its people, to do something like this is kind of a little bit of a step back. So I'm not too sure that this could possibly be a good thing after all. But yeah, like I said, it was only news that I saw before, but very briefly, and it is still kind of making the news is kind of still making its way over here. So if it is something that is of interest to you, then please feel free to go and have a look on Google and just form your own opinion about it. And obviously, then go on to do an almost 2 hour long video and mention it at some point in that video. But yeah, basically that is it for hashtag #JustAnAtter number 4 and kind of a bump along edition. So yeah, also I will mention that I am looking for comments about this, because obviously #JustAnAtter is done live and we want people to comment, to actually get engaged and talk about stuff. And I think it's kind of the times that this has been done, like 10, 11 o'clock at night, that kind of thing, that has possibly prevented some people from actually joining in with the debate because they're like, oh, I'm too tired, I want to go to bed, all that kind of stuff. So moving it forward to 8 o'clock, we've tried it tonight, and obviously there has been no comments that have come in. Well, apart from my comment, which just shows as a bloody error on the screen. Isn't that great? But yeah, it's just one of them things. Like I would still like to continue doing this on a regular basis, but if it's not going to get many viewers and not many people are going to comment on it, then it just kind of makes me wonder, well, why am I doing this? So yes, so please feel free to give all the feedback that you want to give, and I will do my best to give a shit. No, I genuinely am interested in what people have to say about this. Also, I should probably mention, yesterday was a bit of a rare day, because for the first time in over, it'd almost be like a year and 14 months altogether, for the first time this week, there is no BevRants video. Isn't that really weird? Last Friday, we got up to 100 videos that have become live of BevRants, and it was just... I mean, it's been good having a break from filming, because, it isn't at the back of your mind thinking, oh, we're going to have to film this week. And we're going to have to film about, like, if we can do 6 videos, that's 3 weeks covered and blah, blah, blah. It's been such a relief to not have that pressure at the back of your mind. But at the same time, part of me is probably going to start missing it sometime soon. And Ian is expected around at mine tomorrow. So yay that. I'm not too sure what we're doing tomorrow. Like the past couple of weeks, we've been going off to like hairdressers and looking around shops and everything like that. It's been quite a few. It's been quite an interesting couple of weeks that we've had away from filming. But I kind of think that at some point in the future, we are going to get to the point where we're like, we would have been filming now, and probably miss it ever so slightly. But yeah, that is it for hashtag Just a Natter number 4. I will see you all next Tuesday for hashtag Just a Natter number 5. And until then, I shall bid thee a farewell. And I'm sorry I didn't manage to make it up to 2 hours, but I'm boring myself here now. So yeah, see you guys next week.